Chair.
Honourable Craig Foss.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Can I acknowledge the previous speakers and also the work that they've done to get us to where we are today, and I think our speakers that are going to follow me, particularly Claire Curran with the Labour Party, being quite reasonable in our discussions in around what some of this bill has been some contentious issues. I also acknowledge the support of NZ First, who initially showed reservations in my SOP, but are now supportive as per the member's speech. So thank you very much. And I also understand we are other parties, but I'll let them talk about it, are supportive of the bill, which starts to have a bit of a worry as some parties, everyone's supporting this bill sometimes. But anyway, it's been a journey, Mr Chair. And most of the issues around Part 1 and Part 2, Clause 10, or what was in Clause 15, which is, as the other members have talked to, a bit of around computer programs. So I'll just touch on that, but it has been a journey. Mr Chair, it was always the intention, and I think we have now achieved that we now have legislation in front of us which achieves the intent of the Select Committee. And I do acknowledge that the Select Committee, when they were going through these very same issues, they wrestled with all sorts of scenarios and came to a reasonable space, although when I inherited the bill and look at the bill, and I'll touch on this again in a moment, I was concerned about what was in the commentary versus what was actually proposed as part of the statute. So but we've got to the point now where actually the examples that the previous Speaker Curran talked about, and which is in the commentary, for example, the washing machine, actually that example as far as embedded software is concerned is now codified in the bill as an example and as a pointer to what could or could not be allocated or allowed given paintability, Mr Chair. So I think we've done a pretty good job. So on that note, I do want to thank the many people that have been involved in this bill since its gestation, I think in 2008. I think we've had 3 ministers, Honourable Leanne Dalziel, Honourable Simon Power, and now myself. We've had the Select Committee, some of who are still with us, still on that committee in the Parliament indeed. I must fully acknowledge the officials who have been working with this bill for quite some time, who have been very keen to see it progress. I fully acknowledge that some of them took a bit of a heat during some of the parliamentary debates through the time, but I also acknowledge that those same officials have helped us get us to where we are today. So a great example, I think, of the parliamentary process working in action and joint ownerships of this quite significant legislation, modernising 50-year-old patent law in New Zealand. Mr Chair, I also acknowledge my colleague, the ACT Party, John Banks. Particularly, I want to acknowledge the Honourable Peter Dunn, United Future, who did play quite a role in the communications with various sector leaders, ICT players and industry people and interested bodies to get us to the point again where we are now. As I said, I acknowledge NZ First, Labour, and I believe the Greens are now supportive of the bill. Mr Speaker, I have to thank the many innovative New Zealand businesses and stakeholders that have given feedback on this patents bill for their engagement to getting us to this point and helping us pass it. This patent bill guarantees that genuine inventions are protected and Kiwi businesses can continue to grow and prosper. Mr Chair, I'm proud of where we've got to and the process of this bill over the last year. I'm very proud to have a major stake in that to where we've arrived. I fully acknowledge there have been some bumps along the way of that journey, but again, professionals who have looked for solutions have helped us get to where we are. When I became Minister, I took it on a bit of a mission to have a look at this bill and understand what was holding it up, what was the issue. And there really was only one key issue, the discussion around the paintability or otherwise of computer programs. So we spent a fair bit of time on that. Again, a good journey perhaps takes a long time, but as I say, we're there. My SOP to try and tidy that up last year did create a bit of concern, to be fair, and that's absolutely fine. But interestingly, we've gone from a period where there was major concern in the ICT sector about my particular SOP to where we are now that the entire sector actually can't wait for it to be passed in its new form. So I appreciate all of that. The concern was about that SOP. Opposition did intensify around that time, around what was believed to be my not following the intent of the committee. And I can assure the House at all times, and it's reflected in my correspondence with the different professionals and people in the sector, actually the intent was always to follow what the committee pointed to, but I realised there was a problem in the bill where, in fact, New Zealand in that form could have been exposed to WTO action. So, of course, none of us wanted that. But, Mr. Chair,
Craig Foss.
I was surprised at the time because my intent was to follow through as earlier indicated. Mr. Chair, the bill has been strengthened as reported back initially. There's just one quick person I do want to acknowledge. I won't mention the person, but when concerns and organised protests and campaigns and emails and Twitters and things were really going, I had a chat to a person who's in the ICT sector, and at that moment, actually everyone seemed to start to engage a wee bit more when I told the person that there were about 250 software patents in New Zealand over the last couple of years. I listed some of the programs which are well known, which are patented in New Zealand and not elsewhere. Around that moment, and I pointed to my willingness and wanting to follow the UK process where they're at as opposed to the Euro where they're at. That was a pivotal point. Everyone started to engage a bit more and a bit better, again leading us to where we are now. So, Mr. Chair, I fully acknowledge the key issues, my SOP, Clause 10, the new Clause 10 and the previous Clause 15, that's where the contentious issues are. I think we are now over those. And again, let me acknowledge and thank all those that helped us get to this point and their support of the bill, I believe, at the coming stages.
Dr. David Clark.
Labour will be supporting this bill, and I thank the Minister for